Okay, most people think to run your best marathon, everything needs to go perfectly. Every session ticked off, ideal conditions, no setbacks, but that's not how breakthroughs happen. And I promise you, if you can embrace this, not only does it free you up to have great races consistently, it'll also shift your mindset so that you can get to the start line confident without that nervousness and anxiety and execute. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of how I won El Passatore, one of the world's toughest 100K races. No long runs, one marathon, 1 month out that went badly, wrong shoes, wrong plan, and I still won. Not because it was perfect, but because I was prepared for the hard parts, mentally and physically. Exactly the same is true in marathon training. If you believe only a perfect build-up will lead to a great result, you're setting yourself up for a really anxious running life and a string of disappointments. What really matters is knowing how to prepare, what to focus on, and learning to trust your body even when things aren't ideal. I'm Lee Grantham, a coach and a professional ultra runner who went from not being able to run for 500 meters to becoming obsessed with ultra running, and specifically the 100K distance, and reading about a race called Il Passatore in Don Rich's book, The Stubborn Scotsman, 10 years before I would line up and actually race the race. And in those years, I started to train in a much more methodical, smart way that got me to a point where I could get to that start line and be in contention to win the race. And for me, that's exactly what running's about. It's about removing those limiting beliefs and really going for something. Whether you're attacking the 5K, the marathon, ultra marathon, it's much more to do with mindset and about the discipline and work ethic it takes to put that into practice and eventually execute on your race. And if you're looking for guidance in that area, you've got the work ethic and discipline and you want the knowledge, then please get in contact by booking a call in the description. Okay, so Il Passatore 2022. So we'd just come out of this weird period of COVID and races were postponed and cancelled. Intrinsically motivated runners like me were training like animals and just hoping that something would be on in order to test that fitness. Extrinsically motivated runners were often not training because, what's the point? Because we've got nothing to train towards. I kind of get that, but it was a period for me to really look under the bonnet, look at the different areas of my running game and improve as much as I possibly could. So I worked on my weak areas and tried to develop my strengths. And as things were opening up, the Passatore race came on, and that was at the end of May 2022. This year it's his 50th anniversary, and the course is tough. It's undulating for the first 40K. Then it's 6% uphill for 10K, 6% average downhill for 10K, and then basically a marathon flat on the back end, into the night, into the city of Faenza. So starting from Florence, going over the mountains and into Faenza. It's incredibly beautiful, picturesque, and it's just a joy to be part of. And going into the race, I'd come off the back of training specifically towards Tarawera, a 100K ultra race in New Zealand. And you come top 2 in that and you get a golden ticket for Western States. And that was my target for the winter. So I've been training in Thailand for that, in Chiang Mai. Felt more than ready, and then all of a sudden, cancelled the last minute, decided to change the plans, go from Chiang Mai to Bangkok, Bangkok to Middle East to, I think, San Francisco or Seattle, then down to San Diego, then across to Phoenix, 35, 40 hours traveling, and then got to Black Canyon's 100K, which would also offer the Western States golden ticket as well. Ended up falling after 20 minutes. Busted up my foot, and then just thought, I remember hobbling to the next aid station where I got to meet my crew and just thinking, what am I doing? And of course, I'm pissed at myself for trying to make it happen, despite it being pretty obvious that that was a bad decision, but then having the fire in my belly to really want to get fit again and go after something. And that's where Il Passatore came in. And by the time my foot was good enough to really go, then all my runs were short. And so the first point is, I just asked myself, okay, what are the specifics of this race? What are the tough parts of this race? And can I run 100K? Can I run for 7 hours without stopping? My answer to that was yes. And so I need to focus on the tough parts of this race, the up and the down, condition the quads coming down, the specifics that if I get right, I can be ahead of everybody else. I'm already good at going uphill, but if I can get decent at coming downhill and not lose time, then I'm in contention to win the race. We often think to ourselves in marathon training that we need to prove to ourselves that we can run the distance. And in actual fact, what that means for a lot of people is they run their best miles in training and they're actually fatigued for the marathon. You can't afford to do that in 100K running because you can't afford to regularly go out there and do 70 or 80K long runs. And so it forces you to trust in what you can do. And a lot of those runs would usually be 40 to 50K. And for this race specifically, it was 25 to 30K runs with one marathon thrown in there. And so the second point is I did a marathon. I was able to get to Madrid marathon, get to Spain, go up to Madrid. And the funny story behind that is I'd gone to Madrid to run that as a controlled effort, as a controlled 42K. And I'd done it the year before and I'd run it controlled again, but 5% slower than my marathon pace and ran it controlled in 2:30. And I'd got an elite entry. So they're expecting me to run between 2:20 and 2:30. And I wanted to run this controlled at about 2:35, 2:40. So when I got to the first elite drink station, that was there. But from the second one, it wasn't there. And it actually did me a lot of favors because in that moment, when your second drink at 10K is not there, and you're not carrying gels because I've not had that backup plan, which I should have had in place, all of a sudden I'm doing a marathon on very little carbohydrate. And that's actually going to do me a lot of favors. And so you're trying to find the positive and how this can work out for the good for you in the race that really counts, your A race, which is the 100K Passatore race. And although Madrid is hot, it's a beautiful day and it's hilly, it's nothing like the conditions that I'm gonna get when I get to Italy just 4 weeks later. And so number 3 is mindset. What do I feel that my advantages are over everybody else? And you can have exactly the same practice, exactly the same exercise for yourself. If you say that, okay, if it's gonna be hot, brilliant, because it's gonna be harder for absolutely everybody, and I'm going to rise to the top when that happens. If it's gonna be super cold, if it's gonna be rainy, if it's gonna be slippy, again, it's gonna be tough for everybody. I'm gonna make sure that it works in my favor. If it's gonna be hilly, you can obviously prepare for those hills. You can prepare for that heat as well. And I've worked out my training over the years that if it's gonna be hot, and that for Brits is anything above 20 degrees, brilliant, because you're gonna be melting and I'm gonna be in my element. And when you've been going from Thailand to the south of Spain, training for the last 12 years, that heat training, for me, it's a massive impact and much bigger impact than altitude training, but both work together. But what it does, apart from the physiological adaptations, is it also toughens you up. It's not easy to go out there and do a 35K long run when it's 40 degrees Celsius. But you know that if you don't make those runs happen, then you're going to get found out in the long term when you're trying to do big things. So you make it happen anyway. And that is marathon training. And that's definitely ultra training, which nicely leads me on to point 4. Get to Florence, Firenze in Italy, and it's scorching that day. It's like 32 degrees at 3 p.m. The race starts in this beautiful plaza in this square in the middle of Florence. And you cannot imagine a more beautiful place to start a race. You're running out of the city and then very quickly you get into the nature, and that's also beautiful. But people are kind of like trying to find shadow and trying to find water in order to cool the body down in order to get ready for that. And at that point, I'm just thinking, everyone's melting and I'm really looking forward to this. So after years of training in extreme heat, it gets to a spring day in Italy, which should be hot for me as somebody from Manchester. Actually, I'm reveling in it. And I'm getting a real edge from it. Number 5, my race plan was simple. My strength is going uphill and the race course is undulating to 40K, 10K uphill, 10K downhill. That would definitely be my weak area. And then almost a marathon going into Faenza. So my race plan was simple. When it gets to 40K, be fresh and attack on the uphill. So as I always tell you guys, stay calm, find your piece of road, get space, and then get into your rhythm as soon as you can. That was my plan from zero, from the start, all the way to 40K, and then attack. Gain time going uphill, and then on my disadvantage going downhill, I could lose time on people and still keep up, and set it up so it would be a fight for the last 40k, who wanted it the most. What actually happened is, because it was so hot and I hit the first hill and I was going slower, trying to keep my heart rate low, but passing people, all of a sudden I'm going from 15th place to 12th place to 8th place to passing 3rd place to thinking, if I go into the lead now, I'm going to be chased for the next 80k, 75k, and that's not where you want to be. All of a sudden I passed 2nd place, and then 1st place started to walk, so he, eventually abandoned the race, and I find myself in 1st place with something like 25 or 26k gone. And when you're in a foreign country, when you're in Italy, and the feedback you're getting when it's a point-to-point race, you're starting in Florence and finishing in Faenza, you're not getting the feedback in terms of, okay, where is 2nd place? Where is the chasing group? You're not getting stuff like that. And so it's not much fun being chased for 75k, but that's the position that I found myself in. So you're left with a couple of choices. Do you wait, slow down and wait for the group to chase you, sit in, and then continue with your regular plan? Or are you able to readjust in the moment and make what has happened work for you? And so that was my job. Okay, you're in the lead. Work it to your advantage. There are people chasing you. They want to be where you are right now. You've got 75k to go. Who are you? Number 6, I was in the wrong shoes. So I had to wear trail shoes because the sponsor that I decided to sign with during COVID didn't just not have a super shoe, it didn't have a road shoe. I've never stopped in the middle of a race and stretched, but I had to stretch and stop 5 times during that race. And you can get in this negative headspace of, oh, I shouldn't have signed for this sponsor. It was a bad idea. I'm an idiot. They've not delivered on the promises, all these different things. Or you can just say, this is the decision you made. This is the situation you're in. What are you gonna do? What is your reaction to this moment? And so similar to getting to Boston or London and it's a bit hotter day, then, okay, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna give up? Are we just gonna get the next metro or the next bus home? Or are we going to own this moment and get from the day what we can get from the day? So in that situation, it became, okay, you're going to run 100k in trail shoes. And you're going to try and get the best possible result today. And then when you're with a decent company again who can make decent shoes, then you can go even faster. And that became my job in the moment. It got to the uphill and I still attacked because I had no clue. Were they a minute, 2 minutes behind, 10 minutes behind? I had no feedback. So I went as quick as I could up the hill, and then I'd been practicing the downhill, just making the quads as robust as they possibly could. So I flew down as fast as I could go on the downhill, and then went as fast as I possibly could from 60k to the finish line. And there's actually a video of me crossing the finish line in the night at 10 o'clock at night in Faenza, and I shake my head in disbelief because I cannot believe that I've been able to execute what I really wanted to and actually live the life or live the journey of somebody who's a hero, Don Ritchie. And so 7, would I do the same if I had another opportunity to run Passatore? No, I wouldn't. It wasn't smart the way that I prepared. But what I am proud of is, for me, it was worked out. The day was worked out with the heat, the hills, and everything that came into it, where it was all to do with mindset. Who wanted it the most? And who had the biggest ability to suffer for longest. And that's what got me the win. And the great thing now, you can see with Strava segments at different parts of the race, who was actually the quickest. And maybe when did I slow down? When were other people quicker? When was I the quickest? And actually for that last 40k, when I was suffering and my calves were on fire and I thought they were just gonna ping at any moment, and I just needed to dig in, hold pace and trying to get to a point where nobody could catch me, that's actually when I was quickest amongst the rest of the field. And so what is the message that I'm trying to give you of this? I think that often we want the perfect build-up, the perfect training schedule, everything to go right, all the stars to be aligned. And when that happens, we can then execute a great marathon. When in actual fact, if you get into the headspace that if you put together a great training plan, and work with a great coach who can put together a solid training plan that makes sense for you, If you get right 80% of those sessions and get yourself to the start line uninjured, ready to give your all that you give, that mentality that you've built and that work ethic, that competitive nature on race day is going to allow you to execute. And if you're out there battling on a Wednesday for a really tough interval session and you don't feel like it, but you're getting it done, and exactly the same for the Sunday long run, you're getting it done despite feeling 3 out of 10, that's exactly the mindset you need when it gets tough during a marathon, during a half marathon, or during an ultra marathon. And so if you get to your next marathon or race and everything's not in your favor, just take a step back and think, brilliant, this is tough for everybody. And I'm going to give my absolute most today. I'm going to show just to myself how strong my mindset is. And then when the conditions are in your favor, you're going to go way faster.